All right. Well, sorry. What was the last thing you said?
Twitch streamer.
Twitch streamer. Okay. Man, when did you do Twitch? Because I'm mainly familiar with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I started doing Twitch streams about 6 months ago, because YouTube live streaming just like broke. It stopped working, and it was such a pain in the butt to get to function that
Right.
I'm like, Sierra wanted me to stream, and Sierra's a great Twitch streamer, and so I decided, Streamlabs works really well. It's easy to set up, so I set it up. I started streaming on Twitch, and then I was like, I don't want to go back to YouTube anymore because YouTube is so clunky.
Yeah.
The other problem,
definitely experienced that.
Yeah, the other problem I had with YouTube was I was doing a live stream every day because of the Backstreet Boys concert. I wasn't at work, so I was just streaming every single day. That's when I started streaming daily, and all of a sudden I had 100 videos washing out all my other YouTube content, and no one could find my actual videos. So I just started delisting those, but then I'm like, if they're not saving it, what's the point? I might as well be doing this on Twitch. So
do you save any of your VODs, or is it
not anymore? No. If I do stream on YouTube now, I will catalog them to a playlist. I'll catalog them to a playlist. Yeah. And I could start transitioning the VODs over there, I suppose, to that playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll start doing that. It's something I've thought about, but then it just requires me to download the video and then upload the video every day.
Yeah. Depends if there's the demand for it, I guess.
Yeah. And that's kind of the other thing. Like with the live streams, I think for my YouTube at the time, I had 7 people watching the YouTube videos every day. and then I would have like 80 or 90 people watch the VODs over the week. That was pretty consistent. But yeah, just for the amount of effort, because I was making custom thumbnails every single day for them and trying to get that set up, and it was just like, ugh.
You just end up streaming the creation of a thumbnail for the previous day.
Yeah, exactly. Rookzer0's thumbnail production. So Twitch is a lot more streamlined to just jump on, and because of that, the downside is that I don't save the VODs. But I do have all of the drawings and stuff on the Discord, so people can still like see what I'm drawing every day.
Sure. I mean, who has the hard drive space for all of that video?
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the other thing I don't want to do. When I was, I guess we kind of jumped into the interview here.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Ego Show. With me for the debut episode is Rookzer0, YouTube personality, illustrator, and Twitch streamer. Welcome, Rook.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I always say welcome because I'm the one that's usually on the other side of the microphone. I'm on the exact same side of the microphone.
Not today, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Uno reverse card on your ass. All right.
Perfect.
I'll get started with what is possibly the most boring question any artist has ever been asked. How long have you been drawing?
How long have I been drawing? That's a trick question because there is still a fundamental question of how old I am, which I've not told anybody. So I'll say since I was a child. But no, I've been drawing since I was very, very little.
Right. In uteros.
Yeah, and then it just kept, like, oddly enough, I used to draw all the time when I was in, like, from kindergarten to high school. I got yelled at by teachers for drawing too much. And then when I got to college, I went to college for art, and I stopped drawing because I just did 3D art. I did 3D modeling and asset production for so long. And then one day I grabbed a sketchbook, and I was like, shit, I haven't drawn in this sketchbook for like a year and a half. But, I mean, I was always doodling. But it was, very, very weird. A long time. I'll say greater than 20 years, but less than an epoch. So we'll put it somewhere in there.
Just an international man of mystery with your age.
Oh yeah.
I completely understand that everyone whom I speak to on Discord is very interrogative.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
Our mutual friend Jonas Hips on Twitch. Go check him out. I think one of the first few weeks that I was drawing with him, because he draws with me on stream all the time.
Right.
He found my Facebook page and he was like saying all this stuff. He's like, I know how old Rook is, and I was like, what the crap, man? Like that's not cool. Don't do that. And that was a fun little contention of our friendship.
It was an early sign of great things to come, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No, I really dig Jonas.
Through your development as an artist, when did you, not necessarily on a time scale, but more as a sense of self-worth, when did you feel you were confident enough to monetize the art that you've been making?
That's a great question. Confidence is an interesting way to look at it, because when I was in like the 3rd grade, I would sell little tiny like sketches I did to people for like a nickel, because I like I would make fake stickers and be like, hey, you want to glue this on your book? Give me $0.25. So very early on.
That's genius.
But after getting yelled at for that, I didn't do that for a long while. After I started doing YouTube videos, and this is what we were talking about before when we started talking. I had a video game channel, Tandem Gamers, for 2 or 3 years that never went anywhere. Like, I think it still has.
God damn, that would have been good to know as an interviewer if you had
It's a secret. Nobody
dropped the ball there.
No, it still has like 300 subscribers right now, 300 or 400 subscribers, and it's been active for years. I was doing that, and I wanted to start doing art. So I started just posting art videos on YouTube, and those got like 10 views, like nothing. No one liked those. And I decided that, the video game thing wasn't working. Maybe I'm just going to start making YouTube videos about art as an excuse to practice my art. So I started doing that. And then after about a year of that, I got suggested like, hey, get a Patreon page going. That's how you're going to get really supported. And people started jumping on that. And I was like, wait, people actually want to see, like, they'll pay me $1 to look at my art? That doesn't make any sense. Why? Why would they do that? And it took coercion from the Discord, basically, to get me back into doing commission style work. There were people asking me all the time. And with that first, like, 6 months of doing YouTube, I was like, no, I'm not doing commissions. That's not, I'm everything I do for art right now is me trying to just get up to a level of snuff that I enjoyed, I liked. And once I got there, and I think it was probably like the Minotaur video, which even now, like, I don't like that picture. I've redrawn it like twice since that video came out, and I'm still not quite finished with it. I think after that one, people were like, that's really cool. It might have been the Ratfolk video. I was like, you know what? This is way better than I used to be, and I think I'm okay. And I think the first commission I did was like $20-$30 to draw for somebody, and it took me like 10 hours. And I was like, this is not a good price point.
Is not right.
Yeah. So that's really what it was. And it took me probably about a year before I was really comfortable with taking commissions. And even now I'm still hesitant with them because of my work to YouTube to life ratio is kind of out of whack sometimes, and so I'm hesitant to take them because it's like I want to make sure I'm giving them a real piece of my art, something that I'm proud of. But if I'm not,
of course,
if I'm not in that mindset or I'm not sure that I can do it in a timely manner, I haven't been accepting them, and I'm going to be doing it soon again. But yeah, I've had people on a waiting list for about 4 months now, 5 months now, because it's just like I don't have time to do it for you. I'm sorry. But I think I'm finally back to getting that. So,
well,
took a while.
When they hear this podcast, they'll be glad to know that the month-old commissions, are on their way.
They're on their way. I have your name. I have a list. I have a list right here. I will be contacting people.
I asked that question because, in my experience, artists are notorious for underestimating their own value, and especially although I'm learning of a secret past that you have concealed from me, which may change the way you answer this question than how I anticipated. But presenting yourself, drawing online, you are opening yourself up to a lot of well-meaning critique, but not necessarily useful critique. And I wonder if that has either stifled or invigorated your development as an artist.
I have an anecdote for this. So I have many degrees. I have a master's degree in architectural design, but it's all of my schooling was based around art. All of my schooling was around art, except for the few years that I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor, and then I was like, I hate this. Um, so going into art school, you are going to get critiqued, like period. If you go to an art school and they do nothing but like fluff you up, you're in a bad place. You don't want to be there. And that was a big shock for me because I was the artsy kid growing up. I was the kid in all of my younger education classes. And even in my family, I was one of the only few kids in my very large extended family that drew or did any kind of art. My mother did, and that's why I painted and drew as a kid. Growing up, it was always praise, like, oh, you're really good at that. Oh, that's great. This is awesome. You're doing awesome. And then I got to college and it was like, this is generic and crap. You need to do better. Right. And it got so much to the point that I kind of latched onto this. If I show somebody something and they say it's great, that means it's terrible because they have nothing to critique about it. And so if you're coming from that, like, you're really good at art, you should put it on the internet. Yeah, you're gonna be in for a bad time. But I'm very much from a educational background of critique is important, and if you can't self-critique, you don't grow, and if you can't grow, your art stagnates, and that for me is terrifying. Like, that's not what I want at all. So I very much relish critique. But I'm also very cognizant of good critique and bad critique, and I think that's something that people aren't actively aware of.
What would be your way of determining the difference, aside from some level of mind reading on the intention of the the critiquer?
Yeah, mind reading is a great way to do it. I think part of that is also just like self-honesty, self-reflection. If you sit down and look at your art and you say, "Oh, this is perfect," and it's like, is it really? Like if 9 times out of 10 you'll show something to somebody and be like, oh yeah, what do you think about that? And they'll be like, oh, you know, I can do that better. It's like that you just self-critiqued. That's perfect, but you didn't internalize it. You didn't take it to heart. Like, you finished the thing and said it was perfect. So one of us is lying. Which one of us is it? So being able to sit down, and if someone says like, man, your anatomy sucks, it's like, why are you an asshole? Like, why'd you say it like that? Like, that's not cool. Versus sitting down and somebody saying like, this is cool, or, you know, like, I don't really like this, but like, I think you need to work on your anatomy more. If someone says that to you and you're like, yeah, I probably do, then that's good critique. You're like, okay, next time I draw something, I need to make sure I focus more on the anatomy. Versus this art sucks. That's not good critique. It's the same critique as this is awesome. It's like, great.
Is it?
Great. I mean, if you think it's awesome, that's awesome. Thank you. Like, that's a good compliment, but it's not critique. This is awesome is not critique. So,
now give me $20.
Yeah. How good is this? Would you sell it? Would someone pay money for it? Those two things are not always the same. I think some of the other problem, going back to your other question, is when were you confident enough to sell something? That's only part of the equation. Because like the Rat Folk video, I remember that was one of my early videos I did. That video, to me, I rushed, and I know I rushed it, and it turned out really cool, and I'm really happy with the picture itself. But it is, in my mind, not finished. It was basically like a quick wash of color, and it was just a quick gradient ramping, and I'm like, okay, cool, then that's good. Then we're gonna go with that. And so people loved it. People really liked that one. And they're like, oh, do you sell stickers of that? Do you have that somewhere? And I'm like, I don't want to sell that. Like, it's not a finished piece. I'm not happy with it. But people love it. And it's like, you know what? All right, I guess here you go. And so that's when I started giving away my artwork. I was just like, I'm going to put it up on the Patreon page. Everyone can have it for free if they want to go check it out and use it as a character sheet. I want to see people do that. But I'm not comfortable selling that for like actual money.
So generally, as an artist, because you're so close to the drawings that you've created, you basically know what critiques are valid subconsciously, because you know where you're cutting corners, you know where something could be better, and having someone critique you is shining a light and I guess affirming what you suspected.
Yeah. There was that's kind of the anecdote. I didn't actually tell you my anecdote. I had an instructor in college when I was doing human computer interactions. He was awesome. He was a great teacher, and he wasn't an art teacher. But I had talked to him like, I come from a background where I want harsh critique. I want you to tell me where I'm failing, because this is a new thing. Like, human computer interactions is not something I'm used to. So if I'm not getting something, like, I want to have that conversation. And I half-assed the shit out of one of these projects, like, so hard that I was just like, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. I'm done. I throw it. And I showed up and I did the presentation, and he gave it to me. He gave me the sauce, and he chewed me out, and he's like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. No, I didn't. I absolutely.
That would have been a sight to see.
And he just, by the numbers, just this, wrong. You could have done more here. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. I accept my grade. Like, totally fine. At the end of class, all of the other computer scientists, which is mostly what computer scientists and engineers who were taking that class, they came to me like, are you okay? Like, he really chewed you out. That was so mean of him. You shouldn't have done that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't even really think about it as a bad critique, because he was right. He was 100% right. And and I didn't take any of it personally, because I knew he wasn't attacking me. He was very precisely telling me what I was doing wrong. And they were all horrified because they weren't used to that kind of critique. And I'm very much in the mindset of what you're presenting to somebody, whether it's on the internet or in a classroom. If you didn't put your all into it, don't expect people to be super happy about it. Like,
don't expect people to put their all into loving it.
Yeah, exactly. Another good example of that is, and this is, I worked for the university for a long time, in doing little things like teacher assistants and just guiding classrooms. And one of the things I see a lot for design students, especially young design students, is they get up and the first thing they say is like, well, I didn't have enough time to do this, or I didn't finish this part because I ran out of time. It's like, you don't have to tell me that. Like I don't need you to affirm the bad stuff. I want you to tell me the things that you did well and you want me to look at, because otherwise I'm just going to look at, oh, it could have been better. Like, that's the first thing you're putting in my mind.
Right.
And that's where what will people pay for it? Like, oh, this is really cool, I love it. And to me, it's like, oh, it's not finished. But because I didn't tell them it wasn't finished, they're only seeing the good things they like about it. And that's kind of the important part of art.
Right.
So if you want to sell art, if you want to do commissions, only put on your ArtStation the things you're proud of, the things that you want to sell. Because otherwise it's like, here's something I half-assed. If you want to pay me for something half-assed, let's do that, I guess. But it really is, if you can sit down and say, these legs aren't right, like, these don't look right. I have a problem with faces. I do. I just can't draw faces sometimes. And when I do that, I stop and I go, no, don't do that. Erase it, start over, draw the face right. and that's why I'm okay with it. I'm okay, because I'm very used to seeing and being called out for my errors in my art.
Right. I consider myself to be a super novice when it comes to art. I'm still in the trenches of the first year of just figuring out what the hell this pencil and this hand are supposed to be doing together to create something of value. And anytime an artist gives advice to a aspiring artist, not every time, there's simplification, but the idea of just practicing and don't stop practicing, just always practice. Do you have any advice that might help some up-and-coming artists through their development?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Maybe how to practice correctly.
How to practice correctly. There are a lot of great videos out there on how to practice correctly. And I have some shortcuts that I think are more important, and part of that is discipline. Mm-hmm. For me, like I said, I noticed during college I stopped drawing. And so what I did was I started saying to myself, okay, I don't remember who said this, and this is a quote that I love and can't remember who said it because I heard it secondhand. But if you practice free throws, like someone who's a professional basketball player will shoot a free throw hundreds of times. If you only throw one free throw a day, you're only going to practice shooting 300 times in a year. And it's like, oh, crap. So with art, if I only draw one thing a day, I'm only going to have 365 pictures at the end of the year. Like, that's not that many. So
right.
if you can make yourself hold yourself accountable to do the practice, that's something that I think a lot of people fail at. They're like, well, I'm practicing. It's like, how many times did you practice? They're like, well, I drew a little bit. It's like, today. How many times did you practice today? And they're like, well, I didn't. Or like I said, I sketched a lot in my notebooks during college, but I never actually sat down and tried to draw something. I never
right.
tried to improve because I was just mindlessly doodling. So now
right.
I have a daily sketch diary that I draw in. And every day I look at the sketch I did like the week before, or the day before, and I say, okay, I'm going to draw something today. And I try to improve it. Like, I've drawn the same thing 3 or 4 times in a row just because it's like, I didn't really do a good job on this part yesterday. I'm going to try it again. And so that, in my mind, to me, is me being accountable for it. And that's the bare minimum. My bare minimum art level is going to be 1 page in a sketchbook a day for the rest of my life if I can do it. Like, that's me practicing.
Ideally. Is that up online for anyone to see?
It's not. I did when I hit 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, I think I put up it might have been on Twitch now that I think about it. I did like a walkthrough of some of my sketchbooks just to show people what I did. And I do post a lot of them in the Discord. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like in the not safe for work section. Just because that's what I like to draw, and I draw what I want, and
it's anatomy.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. But no, that's in the Patreon section for me in the Discord. People can check a lot of that out. But yeah, that's the like. So that's the first step. That's just the bare minimum of like defining how much and how you're going to practice.
And I do think a lot of people skip over that step because they want quick gains.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't consider the discipline first.
Yep, and that's the next part of it is and I had made a video about this. Is one of the first videos when I decided like art channel, and then I think the video was like why discipline is better than motivation, or how to get motivated as an artist. And this very much comes from my college days again, is that motivation is bullshit. Like, everybody's just like, well, I would draw more, but I'm just not motivated to. It's like, that means you don't want to. Do you really want to draw or not? Because if you want to, you go do it. It's like, well, I don't know what to draw. It's like, then draw circles. Like, you can fundamentally, there are days in my sketch diary when I just sit down and I grab like, I just grab a pen because I want to do it in pen, and I will just play with that pen. I will see, like, I've never used this pen. I'm going to see what I can do with it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try a new medium. I'm just going to draw lines. I'm just going to draw lines. And that's practice. That is good practice. That's practice you can do.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be a full thing.
No one is motivated to sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day, but people do it because they want to.
Yep. Yeah.
And that needs to be drawing for you if you want to improve.
And there is something to be said about, I've fought with depression in my life, and so there are days when it's just like, ugh, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do this. I feel like crap. I'm just not in the mood, and that's when discipline kicks in. Because even if I don't want to do it, I promised myself I would draw 1 page a day, and those days are, some days I draw really shitty stuff in my sketchbook because it's just like I don't want to do this. I don't really care, but I promised myself I would, so I'm going to, and that's more important to me than, only ever drawing when I'm happy and bouncy and bubbly. So those are the things. Beyond that, there are a bunch of really great videos online. Like how do you practice? What do you want to practice? I need to get better at drawing faces. Guess what? You got to draw a bunch of faces. But you need to go online and find faces that will help you improve. So that's like, oh, I drew a face. It looks funny. And then you go on, I drew another face. It looks funny. It's like, stop. Why did the first one look funny? That's where critique comes in. Can you say, oh, the nose is too small. Oh, the eyes are in the wrong space. And sometimes you can't see that. And that's when you need other people to critique you. And you need them to be that nose is in the wrong place. You're drawing the nose funny. So it all kind of comes back to those things.
Is there anything you want to add to that portion? Any like an anecdote or anything that you think would be interesting?
No, I think, well, let me put it this way. So I say that like I'm doing a sketch diary every day.
Right.
I'm on day 1,200 and something. I could go
God
check,
damn.
I guess. But yeah, that sounds amazing. The thing is, I've been doing this for 8 years now. And the first 3 times I tried to do this, I failed horribly. So like the first couple times, I made it like a month, and then I forgot for a week, and I didn't do it. And I was like, damn it. And so I started over, and then I made it for like another 2 months, and I forgot for a week. And then I bought a huge, like giant book that had like 1,000 pages, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it. And then one day I looked at it and like I completely forgot to draw anything during December because I went home for break and I just didn't think about it. So this me being at like day 1,200 something, this is like the 4th or 5th time I've tried to do this, and this is the first time it's been successful for this long. So definitely don't get discouraged if your discipline is weak at the beginning. Like that's part of practice. Is finding that discipline and finding your path to do that. Being discouraged in art, I still get discouraged in art. Like that's normal. It's always being like worried about your own artwork and people saying mean things to you. That's what being an artist is. That's 90% of it. It's 90% of it.
And asking people to say mean things to you.
Yeah. And critique doesn't have to be mean. I always make that joke that like it's just people saying shitty stuff, but like sometimes bad critique is just like, I don't know, it's all right. Like maybe this is funny. It's like, what? Just like how does that even mean?
Well, sometimes bad critique can be good critique just expressed poorly.
Exactly. Yeah. Those are two very 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 common things in critique. So finding someone who's good at giving you critique and constructive critique and giving it in a way that you're like, oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, I'll do that. Is hard. And I mean, that's part of the reason that I've been trying to build the Discord the way I have, so that people are actually there to help. And not just like, I've been on a few Reddit subreddits where it's like, look, I posted a thing and people are like, it's good. And then someone will post something right after you and like 1,000 people will be like, this is the best thing I've ever fucking seen. It's like, you're not actually helping anybody. It's not good.
I'm going to use that to pivot actually. You have a substantial community at this point on your Discord server that has been built from your Twitch and YouTube channel. What's it like to be the icon for a Discord server and have a lot of people look up to you in a parasocial way?
Yeah, panic-inducing is part of it. I talked about this a little bit when I started doing I had the game channel forever, and so I had like 300 subscribers when I quit doing that. And then, I remember being like when I broke 100 subscribers, I was just like, oh, that's so many people. And then I broke 300 subscribers. I'm like, that's so many people, but it's like, that's not enough to make the channel worthwhile. And then I started doing art videos, and it was like the traction was building. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm getting like 2 subscribers a week. That's awesome. That's great. And I think I broke 1,000 subscribers just in the first year, like just under a year. And I remember just being so blown away. It's like, holy crap, there are 1,000 people that want to see my art. Like that is mind-boggling to me. And now another year has passed, year and a half almost, and it's we're on our way to 5,000, I think. I think we're 4,300 or something like that. I have to double check now. Maybe I'm already hit a 5,000. I don't know. And it feels really weird because the metrics for that are I'm a small YouTuber. Like I'm growing slowly, which is good. And then I think we hit like 300 or 400 people on the Discord the other day. Oof, I have to check that too. And that freaked me out more than the 5,000 subscribers. Server settings. That's not what I want. Show me the people.
You're looking for the total number.
I guess it doesn't really matter. The point being is like the numbers are way off, right? The numbers are completely different, but they have so much different weight. Right. Like on Twitch, I think Sierra and I were racing to affiliate, and she beat me, and I was like, "Oh, dang it!" I
don't know if you can live that down.
But because of the people that were, no, I made her an icon that she has a rugby emote in her channel that she can lord over me all the time now. but she's just killing it. She's got like 200 followers now, and I have like 100 and something. And it's just like, that feels just as weighty, if not more, than YouTube, which is also, once again, I have tons of Discord that now Sierra and I are kind of sharing the Discord. It's just like 7 people in the chat sometimes is a lot. It feels like a lot. I'm somewhat introverted. And so when there's a lot of people talking, it's just like, ooh, I don't know what to do, but I gotta muscle through it. And then at the same time, it's like there are hundreds of people out there, and in the YouTube's case, thousands of people that want to see my artwork in some capacity. And it's humbling at one point, and then it is also panicky, because I want to be there for all those people. I want to make sure the content I'm making is enjoyable, but I can't please everybody. And with the Discord specifically, it's more direct interaction. So I feel super blessed. I feel super lucky, super fortunate that I haven't had any issues with the Discord yet. There have been some times when I've had to like ban bots and a few people just being inappropriate. But like beyond that, it's a really good community. And so I'm worried that as the channel grows, it will become less and less of this tight-knit community. And that's kind of what that panic is, that panic-inducing feeling is like, how do I maintain this kind of hometown feel where everyone's kind of friends and hanging out as I grow? And so that's my brain being picked, but I don't have an answer. That's the best way I can say it is I worry about these things. I think about these things all the time.
The obvious, I guess, but imperfect solution to this, and it's very unfortunate, but if you were to prefer a tightly knit community, then making it, not making this server, but making a second, maybe Patreon only server would be a way to go with that. Sure.
Yeah. And something I did with that, the Discord was actually originally a Patreon server. And that was back when I don't have many Patreons. Hashtag check out my Patreon page if you want cool stuff.
Patreon.com/Rookzer0
art.
Rookzer0
art, yeah. But maybe it's just Rook. Now I don't even know. Point being, it started out that way, and I had 4 people in the Discord, and it was just like, hey guys, how's it going? Maybe we should get some more people in here. And I had a discussion. With them. I think I had like 10 Patreons at the moment, at that point, and I was just like, hey, I'm taking away some of your Patreon rewards, and I'm sorry about that. I hate it, but I really think we need to build a community here. And at the end of the day, I think that was the right call.
It certainly flourished.
And there is still a Patreon section in the Discord that I don't know if many people know about. I don't know if people can see it unless they're Patreon members. But there is.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, there is a Patreon section that has some neat stuff on it, but it is on the Discord, and it's a very active group. Like, and so that is always going to be there. I think that will not go away anytime soon. But the Discord in itself should be a happy, fun place for people to just show up and share their artwork, and that's kind of the whole goal for it. And so locking that, I don't want to do. Even if we get hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube showing their artwork off, I don't want to remove myself from that. I don't want to remove myself from a free space for people to share art. Because that's important to me. That is important to me. Something about like even with the Patreon, like whenever I do a video release, I still post the JPEG of that artwork on ArtStation and on Patreon for free, because I'm like, I want to see people using my artwork for their home games, for their character stuff. Like that's very near and dear to my heart.
It would be a bittersweet pill if the amount of patrons mirrored the current member list of your Discord, and then even your Patreon chat.
Oh yeah,
just overwhelming.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Patreon chat is me just like bitching about my job. It's a little more of like Rook unfiltered is probably what the Patreon zone is. and a big push from the Patreon members, like, yeah, we need to make it so you can do this full time. And I was like, I would love to do this full time and just like be on the Discord 8 hours a day.
That's what we all want.
But at the same time, that's what we all want. Exactly. So yeah, if everybody in the Discord, gave $1 a month, I could retire and do that. But but I don't. Like I said, I also want there to be a free place where people can come and ask for
if
things.
you want to make Rookzer0's dream come true, so give him $1 on Patreon a month.
Yeah, check out the $1. You get access to all the sweet PNGs. You get
for any humanitarians cool out there, donating to Rook will set him free from the subjugation of his employer.
Yep. Gotta get away from the man. That's the goal.
Exactly.
But no, I think that was the other thing about going back to like, when did you feel confident enough to ask for or to take commissions? Right. Part of that was like me being sick of working, like because I've worked in kitchens, restaurants, and just like the food industry my entire life, pretty much, and. I got away from that for a while, and then I worked for the university, and I lost my job there, and I went back to it, and then I've just been doing it again ever since. And it's like, I want to be doing art. Like, I think I'm ready to transition to art as my main thing. I have degrees in it.
Serving plates just doesn't compare.
Yeah, it just doesn't compare. But it's not stable. Like, art is not stable, and so that's why the YouTube channel was me keeping myself honest. It's like, I'm going to release videos. I'm going to improve my art. I'm going to work on it. And all of these people in the chat and all of these people on Discord and Patreon, they're going to be like, where's that new video that we want? And it's like, oh, damn, I have to actually work on my art.
You don't need motivation when you just have thousands of people pressuring you to make more content.
Yep. Thousands of people, peer pressure. That's the way. That's how you get better at art. That's how you get the motivation. But that was it. It's like, once people started joining the Patreon, it's like, people are willing to support me. I will take commissions. I will do that. And then if I can do that enough, I will only do that. And that'll be awesome. So that's kind of where that comes from, is just, finding support, finding people that like your art. And then, is there a way to monetize the thing you love?
Was there any moment during the development of your YouTube channel, any particular video or maybe Reddit post that you would consider milestones to your growth?
Yeah. So the first few videos I did were just like weird little fan art things, which is just me sketching and putting it to music.
Right.
Then I did one video where I talked about this was the first Why You Should Play video, was the Why You Should Play an Orc grandmother. It's super old. Because I had a friend that made an orc grandmother character.
That's a great
I was like, I'm going to draw this character
That's a captivating title.
Yeah. People liked it. People thought it was funny. It didn't have a lot of views, but it was like, I'm like, yeah, people actually, that outperformed every video game thing I've ever done. Maybe I'll do more of those. And then, so that was the first turning point of like, that's a series I could do. I could talk about monstrous races in D&D, because that's something I love. It's something I talk about all the time. And then the next big turning point, I think, was my Kiri fan art. That's when I started really getting into Critical Role. And I drew the Kenku. The Kenku video is Kiri, right? Like, it was my interpretation of Kiri. Like, what would Kiri be like as a warlock? And so many people loved that. I posted that on the Critical Role forums, and I think that is one of the ones that got up on the Critical Role actual art splash in the middle of one of their episodes. And it was just like, holy crap, people like that. That's amazing. And I think that actually a bunch of people joined the Patreon because of that. And that was kind of the milestone for like attention. That's when people started seeing my stuff. And it just started growing from there. So those are the two big milestones for me, I think. And they both just kind of happened with happenstance. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, if I do Kiri fan art, people will just like be all over this. I very much was like, I'm gonna draw Kiri because Kiri's great.
It's usually how the most monumental decisions in anyone's career happen. It's just you don't expect it to be as significant as it ends up being?
Blind luck is is a big factor in most art
Well, now that
fields.
the elephant in the room, Critical Role, has been brought up, we may as well get into the topic of D&D. The main,
Oh yeah.
would you call it a theme? How would you describe it? It's very significant to your brand.
It is. It oddly is. Which is really weird because I didn't play a lot of D&D until I started doing the channel. I think part of it is that I love character art. That's something that I did for a long time, not like professionally. It's just like that's what my focus was in school for a long time. And I love characters and stories, and I've always been drawing comics and stuff as a kid. So like D&D is kind of the culmination of that, like taking cool fantasy stuff and telling stories to your friends and mashing it together. But no, I've played D&D or Pathfinder.
Right.
Geez, 10 years now. I've been playing pretty consistently for about 10 years. And the first time I played D&D was like AD&D way back in the day. And I remember being pissed off about it because my friends and I spent like 2 weeks making our characters, and then after 30 minutes of playing we were like fist fighting each other. So so we didn't play much D&D after that. But it like that very much is kind of the indicative nature of tabletops. It's just like it's all about character creation. I love the monster races. Right. I love finding weird ways to play the game. And I think that is more of my flavor than straight D&D. I think D&D is a good way to talk about that. Like, yeah, Critical Role, big influence.
Naturally. D&D does lend itself really well to like creative outlets, just because of how much there is to work with already as a bedrock and how much room there is to expand with your own material. What to you comes first when creating a character? Is it how you would like the design of it to be, or how you would utilize it in a world?
Sure. I'm actually really bad at this because like in all of my videos I talk about like the nuances of building things, but I love playing human clerics. Like, human clerics, human fighters. It's just like it's so, because they're so, I don't want to say bland because they're not bland. They're so blank. You can do anything with them. So for me, I usually start with a very, very simple concept. Like the last character I made was a knife juggler. So I was like, I want a character that juggles knives. Done.
I think I've met that character.
Yeah.
Featured in the Session
It
Zero,
was
if I remember correctly.
So I remade her again for 5th edition, and I was like, do I want to be a rogue? Do I want to be a bard? Do I want to be a warlock? How do I want to do this? And that's usually how my players work out, or making my characters work out, is I have a very vague concept, and then I start seeing how it'll fit in different places. And a good example of that is I was playing a game with some of the other Patreon members and some of the Discord members. I got the opportunity to play a red cap, and I was super excited, and I made the character, and I made him a fighter. And then the core concept for that character was that they were a red cap. And so while we were talking with the party, I was like, fuck it, this guy's gonna be a cleric now. And I just reworked it real quick, but I forgot to re-roll the stats, so I was a really bad cleric. but it still worked. It still worked really well as a red cap, and I enjoyed the hell out of that character.
For the listeners who aren't super familiar with D&D, and of course I'm omniscient, so I know exactly what you're talking about, but when you say red cap, what are you referring to?
A red cap, and I did have a video about those, why I should play a red cap. Red caps are basically tiny fey creatures, they're like garden gnomes. They look like garden gnomes, except they have
I probably should have been able to infer that now that you say it aloud.
Yeah. They have metal boots, super sharp teeth, and they revel in murder, and their hats are red because they dip them in the blood of the people they kill. Yeah. So super dark, super violent character. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'll be a fighter. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a cleric. So I made a super evil cleric. It's an evil campaign. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm a big fan of, and if you watch any of my videos, a big proponent of playing monstrous characters. Not always evil characters,
Right.
but monstrous characters like bugbears and on kegs,
Yeah.
things like that.
I've
Big fan.
In my experience, not that I have much D&D experience. I've only been playing for about 6 months consecutively. But I find there's a lot of hesitance to really embracing true evil campaigns, and I don't know that just anyone are really capable of doing that. What's been your experience?
Yeah, so I talk about this a lot on the. This is not an uncommon question, like, at all. I talk about this a lot on the live stream because it comes up. The first thing I say is that not all players are meant for all campaigns. Not all characters are meant for all campaigns. And what I see a lot of people is when they think about an evil campaign, what they're really thinking of is mass chaos or like lawful evil stupid. Where they're just like, can steal, gonna steal, can stab, gonna stab. And it's just like, that's what are you doing? like that's, and so the real problem with evil campaigns is when it's not an evil campaign, when there is just basically like an agent of chaos in your party, and that's not fun. Like, that's not fun for anybody except the one person who's just destroying the game. And so I've had situations where one of my reoccurring characters, not a character, but like someone I talk about a lot, is Kevin the Necromancer. And he's one of my friends wanted to play an evil necromancer, and I'm like, well, the story we set up and the campaign we built, everyone else is basically going to be like star chosen, right? Like, they're all tied to deities and trying to save something grand, and he's just like, I want to be an evil necromancer. And it's like, how are we going to make that work? I made it work. I gave him parameters, and at the time he's like, my whole goal in this campaign then is going to be get away from the party. And I'm like, cool, if you can do that, do that. And we played for a few months, and by the time he finally got away from it, I was like, cool, okay, you escaped. Now we have an evil campaign and we have a good campaign. And so they re-rolled characters. They re-rolled characters to have these two separate parties.
Did the necromancer join without any issue to the good campaign with a new character?
From time to time, yeah, it worked out really well. He actually kept his character for that, because he's like, okay, I know these guys, they're assholes because they're good and they want to do all this weird stuff. But whenever there have been a few times where the path would collide and we would just bring the people over. Captain Jump Rope is in all of my campaigns, and so she basically has two characters, one on each team. But I split the teams up to where now three of the people we were playing with in the good campaign kept playing without Kevin the Necromancer, and then I added a person on his team, and then two of them overlap both teams. So there's actually like six characters, but only 5 players. 4 players. There's 4 players and 6 characters that are diverse. That is super complicated, and that is why I tell people, if someone wants to play an evil campaign, either start an evil campaign or tell them no. Like, just don't do it. Because it's really complicated and it's tough sometimes.
There was no friction during, was there troublesome friction in the initial sessions where this evil character was with the good players?
Yeah. Yes and no. The other benefit to me doing it that way was because we were all friends. Like, we've all been friends for years. So them sitting down and him being like, I want to play this evil character, they're like, ugh, we totally get it. Okay, fine. Like, right. we'll see how this goes. But this is also the same group of people where one of the players played a horse. And that was really funny. And they were fine with it. Mind you, in that campaign, someone stood up from the table and was just like, I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to be in this campaign if you don't want to be in this campaign. My friend is playing a horse. We're going to go with it. So
how could you step away from that? That is
right. We've actually had that character in like 3 different campaigns. It turned out really well. If you ever want to play a horse, I haven't made a video about this yet. You can definitely be a ranger with a really stupid human as your companion. It's a whole lot of fun. But no, that's the beauty of D&D, right? Is that you can do that kind of weird shenanigans. So when you're playing an evil campaign, it really is. I make it more player focused, because you're not going to be doing something grandiose and saving a country unless it directly benefits you. And I remember when we first transitioned to just the evil campaign, it actually came about because two of the players were supposed to meet up with Kevin the Necromancer and kind of start this like haphazard campaign. He killed them both. And revived them. And so the paladin became an anti-paladin, and the other one just died and re-rolled another character. but they both loved it. And now that's still one of our favorite campaigns. And they have very different goals than the other team did. And the first time that Jump Rope found a sleeping guard, she shanked him. And now they're all wanted for murder. because she didn't check if there were any people about, and sure enough, she murdered a guard in front of 5 guys. It was really funny.
Yeah. I found that a lot of players don't really know what they want in terms of their character and the plot that their characters go through. And not so much that they don't know what they want, but that they don't know what would be fun. And you see a lot of... I don't know if you see a lot of it, but there are definitely some players who are hyper concerned with min-maxing their character sheet and making themselves as perfect and powerful as possible, and not really taking advantage of weaknesses within their characters. How would you approach someone like that who is wanting to join your campaign?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to that I want to talk about. One is just like the question is kind of how do you deal with power gamers, and 2, how do you incorporate them into your games? The first part of that is you don't. Power gaming is absolutely a thing, and if it happens, it happens. Like you don't need to squash it or like belittle it. But once again, not all players and not all characters are for all campaigns. And so usually what I do is I sit down and I say, okay, this is a high fantasy game or a low fantasy game. The current Patreon game we're playing, which I just released the first episode of on YouTube, if people want to watch that, is very low fantasy. I told all the players, I'm like, don't roll your stats. We're going to do it while we play. And you're going to suck. You're going to be really bad for a little bit. Like, I'm not going to give you lots of magical items. You're not going to have any gold. Just wing it and have fun. That's not fun for everybody. Some people just aren't into that at all. So for those people, you have to say, like, we're going to play a high fantasy game. You re-roll your dice, make sure you have tons of hit points, have fun, min-max the hell out of your character, and we're going to fight some, extraplanar deities. It's going to be awesome. The problem comes when someone doesn't talk about that, and everyone shows up to the table expecting one thing, and all of a sudden this person's like, I'm basically 5 levels above the rest of the party because I knew how these mechanics worked. And it's like, that sucks. There are still ways around it, though, is the other side of it, is that if that's the case, you basically have to build everything around the fact that there's a party imbalance. Because if you just keep throwing regular encounters that are good against one person, the low-level characters aren't going to have fun. And if you just keep throwing really easy things at that person that wanted to challenge themselves with a min-max, they're not going to be having fun. So pre-communication, super important to not let that happen. And then beyond that, you have to step away from the rules as written. And that is something that a lot of people don't want to do. Because if you have a character that's just like massively overpowered compared to everybody else, the DM needs to step in and say, hey, I think maybe, I know it says this in the book, but I don't think your character should be able to do this. Or we're going to drop the dice down to a D6 instead of a D8. Or maybe we're going to lock some of this stuff behind a storyline thing just to make it more interesting. But it has to be a conversation, because as soon as somebody says, like, that's dumb, you can't do that, now it's fighting.
Right.
and someone's not going to be having fun, and it might just be that character's not good for that campaign. That's sometimes you just have to say no.
Have you found that DMs have been sitting? This isn't like a general statement, but have you encountered DMs that set the scope of their story too wide and lose the humanity of the story with their players?
I definitely do that all the time. I'm very shallow when it comes to world building, and I do that kind of intentionally. There are people that like, I want to know the lore of this land, and it's like, here's a book that someone wrote about it. Like, I didn't read this, but you can if you want. And then if anybody has questions, you can roll for it and tell me what they know. Jump Rope is like that. Captain Jump Rope loves like deity lore and history lore. And so anytime, like this morning, we were dealing with a library. All of my players went to a library, and I had notes written down. Someone asked something, I muted myself, and I'm like, is that right? That kind of stuff is okay. Like, it's okay to not know that things. And I think a lot of DMs will lose track of their own story. And sometimes if they're writing their own story, they will get so lost in the, like, I have all of this great lore, and the players don't care about it. Like, the opposite thing happens, where they get completely lost in the lore. And really, all that comes down to is kind of practicing and becoming a better storyteller. How do you get the information that is important out, all while having the information or the ability to have the information if the need arises? Something that we taught a lot in our design classes were, when you're building a story or you're building a world or a universe, the characters should influence the world and the world should influence the characters. So I'm a big fan of letting the players kind of inform the world as it goes. And if too many players want different things, it can start feeling really disjointed and it can feel really lost. And I think specifically one of the reasons that the Critical Role cast doesn't have that issue, sometimes they meander, but for the most part it feels very cohesive, is because all of them are aware of each other's storylines. Not like they know what's going to happen, but they're willing to give somebody time to develop the story. They're saying, okay, this is your part, and we're gonna tag along with it. That's the best way to not get lost, is to really like let it unfold as it goes, but be patient with it. Like, oh, this isn't my part of the story. This is about you, your character. How can I be invested in this part of the story? I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did. Have you ever killed a campaign?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Before, like, unceremoniously.
Yes. Not like... So the first time I played D&D with my friends, it lasted about 30 minutes. I was so clever that I lit the bugbear on fire and killed him.
Wow.
And the DM chopped my head off with an axe. And so years later, I wrote a really cool cutscene for one of my friends because I wanted him to have this like epic final battle with his nemesis, and he hated it, and he hated it so much because I basically took away his autonomy. Like, I didn't let him let the roles decide. I was just like, okay, the cutscene starts and now this is what's happening. He's like, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, well, it happened. And so both of those things happened because of the player versus DM dynamic, right? There was a breakdown there. And some of the best advice I give to young DMs is, if you have to stop and say, I need 5 minutes to breathe or think, that is totally okay. Because otherwise it turns into, fuck you, you all die, everything's broken, we're done. And everybody walks away from the table mad. And that's not what you want. That is absolutely not what you want. It very much does break down to, it's not you versus the players. It is you and the players telling a story. and that's the other problem with power gamers is a lot of times the power gamers are like, I can do this, and the DM's like, well, I can do this, and well, I can do this, and they just keep one-upping each other until nobody's having fun. So the first time as a player, my campaign ended, it was because we had gotten so far into it and our DM was so stressed out. He's like, I can't keep running these. Like, I need to play, or I need to take a break. And we all decided that our characters just kind of like, we had just gotten into a spaceship and like launched into space made out of dragon bones. And we're like, our DM was like, I don't know what to do anymore. You guys have gone so far off the rails. You all just drowned in space and are dead. And we're like, yay! Because we all just wanted it to be over, and that's fine.
Right.
But as a DM, I've had campaigns end where it's just everybody dies. It's just like, you're supposed to save what was the funny one? I gave them this magical sword to help fight this lava beast, and my friend just threw it into a volcano. And I'm like, okay, that summons the lava beast, I guess. And he's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, because they were just done. They just didn't care anymore. We were doing a one shot, and they're like, we just want to be done with it. Let's just break the universe. And they were totally happy with just smash, 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 smash.
Yeah.
Because we had that communication. I'm like, you're done with this. I'm done with this. Let's just end it. Let's end it in a fun way. That's so important versus people fighting, arguing, and a game dissolving. That's never fun.
Right.
And it really breaks down to communication.
I completely agree with you that communication is the key balm for any play hostility or someone not getting what they want out of a campaign due to a misunderstanding. But, people are very complicated, as I'm sure we both know. Even so, how do you, both as a player, control your ego? And ironic that I'm asking that, but also as a DM,
distill it down.
How do you manage, I guess, the feelings and emotions and the passion that you're putting into it with how things turn out when you get to the table?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's probably something I struggle with, like especially as a player, because I do have so much D&D knowledge just like crammed in my brain. Part of the way I get around that is by making very eccentric characters, and because my characters just have to be kind of like, woohoo, whatever, I don't care, or they get really serious and really like kind of dark and broody, and it's just like, this isn't fun. Nobody likes this. I don't like playing this way. But I think it falls back to the same thing. It's just your ego does get checked at the door if you know that it's not you versus the DM. It's not you versus the players. It is, we need to tell a story. And there have been times when people come up with something that just like totally breaks your game, totally screws something up. The DM's just like, you can't do that. Your character can't do that. And it's just like, oh, well, why? Like, you could get upset about it and you could get angry about it. And as a DM, like, yeah, you're just like, oh, fine. Yeah, your character dies. It's great. Whatever. And it shuts something down. When really what you should be saying is, that doesn't sound right to me. I don't like that. How can we make that happen, but in a way that makes more sense and is fair to everybody? And that's really hard. That's really hard to do, because that is you stopping your emotions and saying, I don't want you to do this. I don't like this. This made me upset. How can we move forward as a team to do this? And that's why just, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to stop. It's okay to like, it's so powerful to just be like, everybody go get a drink. I need 20 minutes.
It does take a lot of zen to essentially pause an emotional, just like a feeling that would normally take you out of commission for maybe like a day trying to think about it. But as a DM, you have to manage that in seconds in front of the whole party. Yeah, that's and
that's bad. Like that is the hard part, and that's why I'm saying, like, if you ever take anything away from my videos, like, oh, I can play a large size creature, that's great. No, just, it's okay to stop. It's okay to pause. And I tell that even when I invite people to the game, it's just like, listen, this is like you're playing a new character. You've never played this game. You don't have to sing. You don't have to dance. You can just tell me my character does this. And if you don't know what to do and you need a minute, tell me that. Because the last thing I want you to do is to get frustrated or upset because you don't fully understand what's happening or how something works. Like, it's just, everybody wants this like perfect flow of game, right, which like we see on Critical Role all the time. And it's like, no, it's fine. Like, if you have to pause and be like, can we play it up tomorrow? Because I'm so tired, I can't follow this. It's like, let's do that. No D&D is better than bad D&D. Like that is the thing I want you to take away from all of this. Like, I would rather not play D&D instead of people screaming at each other for an hour.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah. Words of wisdom.
Unfortunately, I've run out of all my notes. We went through them a lot faster than I thought. Is there anything you'd wanted to add, any addendums to questions, or maybe something you think would be interesting to say?
I'm a weird dude. I'm going to put that out right away.
Okay.
And so you asked me about like, oh, how do you deal with all of the, like, basically, like, I always bring this back to like, oh, what's it like being famous? It's like, I don't feel famous. I feel like a guy in my living room on my computer most days. So I'm a weird dude that loves D&D and loves art, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm an authority on anything when it comes to this stuff, because most of the time the best way to be a good DM is just to be able to bullshit stuff in a way that people are happy with. Like, because it's, at the end of the day, it's fun. Like, it's the same thing with art. Like, drawing something that I love is awesome. Drawing something that I love that other people love is amazing. Like, that's the best feeling. Like, oh, you guys like this too? That's great. And
I think to have an audience like you do, to gain some traction online, you have to not only be saying things that are true, but enough things that are true that people find like a relief in hearing someone express something that they themselves couldn't articulate. I think your channel is just a monument to talent and to experience that has been exercised in video form.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
No problem. Thank you so much for...
Does my heart good. Does my heart good to hear that.
Thank you so much for giving me your time for this.
Yeah, no problem.
Where can people find you? How can people support you?
You can always check me out on YouTube. It's just Rookzer0 with a 0 at the end. It's Rookzer0. I know a lot of people have said they've been confused about that, but it is Rookzer0.
Is there a reason for that, by the way?
Is how I pronounce it. A long time ago, I had a character named Rook in Final Fantasy XI.
Okay.
And then I lost my account, and I had to make a new account, but I couldn't make a new character named Rook because I already had that character on the blocked account. So I decided, instead of being Rook X35, I was like, I'm gonna be Rookzer0 because that's awesome.
Right.
And 0 is another tag that I had used all the time. So it just kind of happened. It just kind of happened that way. It became Rookzer0, and I've used that for years and years and decades now. So,
well, it has a ring to it. It gets stuck in your head.
Good. Good. But yeah, so the other reason I use the 0 is because then it like kind of camel cases the word, and it looks nice. The R and the O are the same size instead of Rook0 with a capital O at the end. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's my little name story. But they can check me out on YouTube. There's links for the Discord there, as well as on Twitch, which is just twitch.tv/Rookzer0. If you want to check out the Patreon, it is Rookzer0 Art. And I have all my little like goblins, bugbears, hobgoblins ranked on there. And if you donate more than $5 a week, you get stickers and stuff, which is cool. So hope people like those.
Listen, there's definitely worse ways to spend your money.
Yeah.
Please support Rook.
Support the Rook.
If you enjoyed this, please... Oh, yeah, sorry, guy.
I was just reiterating what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's okay. If you enjoyed this, please consider sharing it amongst your friends. Like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye.
Do you have an outro yet?
No, not really.
Okay.
That's it.
Well,
think
stay happy,
maybe-
stay healthy, keep your dice on the table. That's all I got. You can borrow mine for right now until you figure it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.